Hi, I'm Chuck.
And I'm Scott, and welcome to What About? We're doing a series of snippets regarding the various topics in HR and compliance and the functions behind HR that are brought to us from our clients and from our colleagues. Today's topic, we're going to be talking about onboarding. My colleague here, Chuck Ross, who is the founder and principal of the Workforce Planning Group, is with us, and we're going to be talking a lot about the benefits of onboarding. So, Chuck, tell me about onboarding and why is it so important?
Let's define onboarding first. And onboarding is a transition, right? It can happen when a candidate, a new employee comes on board. They transition from candidate status to full employment status. But it could also, in a much broader sense, it could happen in any kind of transition where you have someone that was not a manager now becoming a manager. That's the kind of the much broader definition of onboarding. But it's basically a conversion from one relationship with the employer to another relationship with the employer. I've always said that there are kind of two classes or two fundamental approaches to the onboarding process. There's the transactional aspect of onboarding, and that's all about the paperwork and the forms and the compliance, the materials provisioning, making sure employees have what they need to do their job, or if they're changing jobs, that they have the stuff that they need for the new job. That's all the transactional stuff, the kind of the business end of
Right,
of
yep.
onboarding, right?
Yep.
There's also the acculturation side of onboarding, which is more of the making sure that they are going to be effective in their job, right? So it's not so much the very specific stuff; it's the much more strategic, much more subjective kinds of things. Because what is it that makes an employee that's new in a role? What is it that makes them effective, and what is effectiveness, right? These are very kind of subjective questions to ask. It may entail simple orientation, to the company, which is going to vary from the business, and industry, and what the company needs, what their business activity is. It could be specific learning management things. I've had an engineering company that had very specialized needs that they would hire, an engineer and spend 2 years training them. Or I've seen law firms that hire attorneys that sometimes take 2, 3, 4 years
Sure.
to develop their particular specialty.
Well, let's step back for a moment and talk more about the automation of onboarding. What I
Sure.
hear in the industry a lot is we're tired of having people coming in, filling out these forms, and it's just an administrative nightmare. What is it that you can bring to the table that would allow us and our clients to be able to have, I don't know, one person sit down, populate a form, and then it all goes to all the other forms, e-verify and all that other stuff? Why don't you talk about
Yeah.
that?
So automation, it's not necessarily limited just to transactional onboarding, but that's certainly where the low-hanging fruit is in terms of locking down the process, right?
Right, right.
Remember I mentioned that transactional onboarding includes the forms, the paperwork, all that data collection that has to go on,
Right.
acknowledging and signing off on policies, and we've talked about that before on our YouTube channel here. And that is just one of those things that is rife for automation, right? I want to enter my name one time, and it shows up on every form consistently the same way. I want to be able to enter my social security number. It's verified and validated one time, and everywhere a social security number is needed, it's repopulated. So we're eliminating duplication of entry, not only from the efficiency standpoint, so I don't have to enter it multiple times, but also from the accuracy, because every
Well,
time someone
human
has to enter
interaction causes
absolutely.
issue. Sure.
Yeah. But I think the key in automating the onboarding process is to look at it from the process perspective. Not every organization is going to get the most value from automating onboarding strictly by looking at the paperwork. Some organizations, a client that I'm working with right now that's an educational institution, is much more concerned. Their risk is all about the provisioning of assets and materials to new employees, and then the collection of those assets and materials when the employee departs. Right. So if you have faculty or people that are on short-term tenures or defined tours of duty, those
Yeah,
kinds of things.
let's talk about that for a moment. What is probably the best or the sweet spot type of client that would benefit from your services?
Well, from our services, and as a consulting firm, we can help improve that process, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever the process is. Now, keep in mind, of course, that the process for a fast food franchisee is going to be considerably different than
Right.
than my Ivy League college client, right?
Sure.
There's interest and there's missions. There's just it's a completely different environment.
How about a bar?
A bar, funny we mentioned that. It's all about focus, right?
Sure.
Where is the pain point, right?
Right,
And if you look at a client that has high turnover and they're in the hospitality, restaurant industry, fast food or whatever,
Right. Well, that's
their
what
pain
I'm saying.
is absolutely the pain is the paperwork, the
Right.
forms, it's the collection of data.
Like
right?
a cleaning agency, they have 200-300% turnover sometimes.
Absolutely, yeah. So the process then, the value in automating the process becomes locking down that paperwork, getting it as efficient as possible, so that you don't have someone sitting at a desk for 2 hours on their first day on the clock
Right.
filling out paperwork.
Right.
That they can get that done in 15, 20 minutes or 30 minutes, and then move on to more productive, learning and work and that kind of thing.
Excellent.
So it's going to vary from employer to employer. Other companies are going to benefit from the provisioning activity. Making sure that you have your desk set up on day
Mm-hmm.
one, and not to mention that really feeds
And
into
how many of us have gone to a job and we're sitting in an empty cubicle with no phone, no computer, and maybe a pencil?
And the funny thing is, it's and we've been automating onboarding and all the science and the capability we have in terms of processing, process definition, and just doing good work in
Right.
HR.
Right.
Still, a majority of companies don't do a great job of onboarding. That first day experience
Right.
is critical, not just from the compliance perspective, that transactional onboarding perspective, but also from that acculturation perspective. The biggest complaint I hear from new employees when they assess their first week or their first 30 days is, I didn't have X, or I wasn't told X.
Right.
Those are all
Right.
acculturation issues, and those are actually very, very easy things to lock down in terms of process. If someone pays attention to defining what the process should be.
All right. Well, there you go. If you have any questions regarding onboarding, you know how to get in touch with us. Go to the contact area, fill in your information, hit it on the interweb, go to our phone, call us up. We'll be more than happy to put you in touch with Chuck, and he can baffle you with his brilliance. Again, Scott Williams here
Chuck Ross.
with What About? See you
Thanks.
soon.